in DC today. He's meeting up with Rocky to share the film with one of the organizations that helps fund the orphanage at a private screening, and it's just really important because it could bring to light a lot of the things that we're trying to do with the film and Rocky's efforts and stuff. I want to bring up we have a bunch of the film team that was at the filming with us and involved with the screening or with the film. John Pope, he's the cinematographer. Tyson VanSkiver, the assistant editor, and Phinehas Hodges, the writer.
I just want to say congratulations to all of you, because this is really, I think, your first film that you've done, and it's doing so well, and congratulations. And before opening questions out to the audience, I was wondering if you could talk about, you all had a relationship with Rocky in some way, and when you decided to leave, what was your initial reaction to that, and how did that change once you knew you?
Rocky was always a very quirky, awkward, funny, sometimes annoying person. And at first I think, Steve was the closest with him, and I knew him for almost as long as Steve, but it didn't really make a whole lot of sense until we actually went there and saw him. He came back right before we went with him to India, and it started to make sense then. We saw him something didn't click with him in the United States, and then when we actually traveled back with him to start filming in India, just seeing what he was doing, and it blew our minds. It was like, he's not coming back to the United States. He belongs in India, and I don't see him ever coming back. I can see him getting worn out and stuff, but he belongs there. India is a part of him. So.
Yeah, I knew Rocky through Steve and Danny, and Rocky's one of those guys. I don't know if you ever have those relationships in your life where you meet somebody and you're able to have a brutally honest relationship with them, no matter how short a time you've known them. And I had that with Rocky. We were very honest with each other. I specifically remember some conversations real late at night, being really tired because I couldn't sleep. We'd be walking out in these pastures out in the middle of God knows where, this village with no light, and having some pretty honest conversations. I was going through probably the darkest time of my life during principal photography of this film, and Rocky has a very special place in my heart because of that honesty, and what you see on the screen is the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, I had kind of the same. Rocky, he shares everything with you, and sometimes, like Danny was saying, it's really hard to be around him because he's just so much in your face all the time. But I think that before I met him, I read years and years of his emails and blog posts, and I just remember feeling like, he's a really special guy, and I was inspired by him to try to be better with people in my life, and I think that's really what I take away from him as a person is, like, you meet him and you're like, yeah, he's a human, he has flaws, but to do what he does is really special. So.
I first met Rocky when he came to the States when his visa expired. That's when I first met him, and it was funny because he's so upfront, as everybody said, but he's so good at, trying to say, like, he's so good at, like, finding your heart, because he never wants a surface level relationship. So, like, right from the start, he goes right after your heart. So you'd be very uncomfortable at first, but then you realize that, like, wow, my relationship with him is so deep, and we've only known each other for a few hours. That's Rocky.
there a question from the audience? Yes. Okay.
What kind of impact do you hope this film will have on the orphans in this place in particular and perhaps in India in general?
Sure.
So the question is, just so everyone can hear, what kind of impact do you think this film will have on the orphanage of orphans and in India?
This film's really special to us because from the start we made the decision to not profit from this at all. So, I mean, everybody that you see up here, the production company, everybody has basically been working for free for the last 3 years. What we did decide to do is we're donating every penny of profit to Rocky's efforts, to the orphanage, and to other HIV initiatives. We've partnered with a handful of nonprofits. There's a lot of goals and hopes with that. One specifically is the kids are required to leave the orphanage at a certain age, which is 15 years old. And you can imagine how difficult that is with somebody that has HIV working in the brutal India workforce. And you know, we've seen a couple of kids transition out of the home and have to work in a leather shop making purses, and basically, for lack of better words, they're destroying their bodies, they're killing themselves, they're not taking care of themselves. So Rocky wants to build shops that can be, they don't have to work full days. It's like, like doing seamstress and things like that. And above that, he wants to kind of have a halfway house with supplemented apartments where these kids don't have to feel the pressure to, go out in the workforce and, just really destroy themselves. So there's a lot of goals with that, and, even supporting the orphanage and things. We started, we had a campaign where we paid for milk and eggs for an entire year for the orphanage, but Steve just recently also went for 5 weeks in December to visit a couple of other orphanages with Rocky in the area, and just saw the need because they don't have kind of the help that Rocky's helped bring in, clean water and things like that. So we're starting to see the much bigger need, and that's where the HIV organizations and things that we partner with are going to help just broaden the picture. But we're excited by just the responses that we're getting and the connections we're making, because it's starting to become more of a reality of the things that we're going to be able to do. So we're excited.
Is there another question? Is there anyone in the balcony? Yes, you just put your hand up.
Has the village accepted Rocky over the course of time?
So the question is, has the village accepted Rocky over the course of time?
He has extremely good relationships with certain people in the village. Specifically, Vemity's parents, who, she was the girl that had passed away. They're extremely close, and he's actually helping Rocky buy land for what he wants to do, because he's kind of getting taken advantage of, and the government's kind of weird just because Rocky still is working out a lot of his visa issues. There were things that we couldn't really fit in the film, specifically when the village found out that the kids had AIDS. There was actually they kicked the kids out of school, and there was a big court case, and the village lost just because that you can't do that. You can't kick the kids out of school. But the kids are still, there's still segregation. They eat by themselves at lunch. Kids tease them, and Rocky is. They point fingers at Rocky a little bit, and it's just difficult at times. He's always going to face that, being somewhat of an outsider, and yeah, it's difficult.
Is there another question? Yes, on the side.
Another film? He had asked if we as a team are contemplating another film. India? What's that?
India or a separate film?
Specifically, yes, we're in pre-production on another documentary. We're not really divulging too much yet, but in the next month or two, we will be kind of announcing what that is. In regards to India, we do have we shot 10 terabytes of footage, which is massive. So there's tons of stories that didn't really make it into the film that we want to continue to edit together and to show to people, as well as going back and documenting some of our efforts and Rocky's efforts, and to continue to tell his story. We kind of want to have people be involved if they want to be with Rocky's life, because he's very transparent with it, and those are things that we'll be posting on Facebook and Twitter and our website and things, just to keep people up to date with Rocky, because we get a lot of people asking, how's he doing, how's this, what's happening here, and kids are constantly coming into the orphanage, so we just want people to be connected to that if they choose to.
Who's in the front?
Firstly, thank you for all this beautiful. It's really well done. I resonated with it really a lot because I worked with women in terms of HIV, AIDS, and Kenya, so I connected with Rocky when I was watching the previews and reading the film. So my question was, when I was researching the film before, I noticed that Rocky was doing a lot of work with bringing Christianity to India, and I was just wondering, since that was a big part of his life, like for these blogs and researching him, why that wasn't included in the film.
So the question is regarding Rocky's previous work and working around Christianity and bringing Christianity into India. Why wasn't that included in the film?
It's a really good question. Steve obviously is the editor and mastermind behind this film. It's his story as much as it is Rocky's. There was hours and hours of discussions between all of us and Steve just about how to best approach it. And we wrestled with that idea. I don't know how to best answer that, do you? I mean, Rocky is a very spiritual person, and that's as much a part of his life as anything, but it wasn't necessarily about that. Like, his initial reason for going to India wasn't really a spiritual decision, like I want to go here for whatever. He was basically just traveling around. He was inspired by Mother Teresa, and actually was trying to go to the House of the Dying, but he was at the other end of India without knowing it. So somebody pointed him to this orphanage, and he fell in love with the kids. It's a really deep question, and Steve's more the one to answer that, just because it was ultimately his decision. But I mean, we wrestled with that a lot, and it's silently in there, I guess is the best way to put it. But I mean, feel free to come chat afterwards as well, and we can talk more about it. Thanks.
Is there another question from the audience? In the front here.
Alex's position really changed.
So the question is, how has his position changed after the marriage in the village, and is she involved in the orphanage?
I mean, I think the village is pretty accepting of their marriage. There's difficulty in his hut. His hut